The Last Seed of the Secret Garden. Once upon a time, in a small, forgotten village nestled between ancient woods and misty hills, there lived a young boy named Elliot. Elliot was a curious child with an imagination as vast as the starry night. Though his world was limited to his grandmother's cozy cottage and the forest surrounding it, he spent his days exploring every tree, stone, and path, dreaming of adventures that went beyond his small, familiar world. One misty morning, Elliot ventured deeper into the forest than he ever had before. His grandmother had often warned him not to wander too far, but something seemed to be calling him. It was as if the trees themselves were whispering his name. Guided by an inexplicable pull, he found himself standing before a tall, rusted iron gate entangled with vines. Behind it lay a garden, but this was no ordinary garden. It was ancient, with an air of mystery that hung thick in the morning mist. Elliot took a deep breath, pushed open the gate with a creak, and stepped inside. The garden was overgrown, wild, and silent, as though it had been forgotten by the world for centuries. Wilted flowers lay like relics of a distant time, and twisted tree branches loomed overhead, casting shadows across the broken paths. Yet, in the midst of the decay, something caught his eye. At the very center of the garden stood an old stone pedestal, cracked but enduring, and upon it rested a single golden seed. It was small and smooth, no larger than a marble, yet it glowed with a faint, warm light, as if a piece of sunlight had been captured inside. Elliot felt his heart quicken as he approached the seed. He could almost feel it pulsing with a quiet power, as though it held secrets waiting to be unlocked. Just as he reached out to touch it, a gentle voice echoed in his mind. "You have found the last seed of the secret garden. To bring it to life, you must nurture it with patience and faith, for it holds the spirit of a lost magic." Startled but thrilled, Elliot took the seed and tucked it carefully into his pocket, feeling its warmth seep through the fabric. That evening, he returned to his grandmother's cottage, his mind buzzing with questions. After supper, he gathered his courage and asked her about the garden he had found. His grandmother's face softened with a look of nostalgia. Yeah, and she began to tell him stories of a place she had heard of in her youth, a garden that was once known for its beauty and abundance. "They say that those who tended the garden understood the secret language of the earth," she whispered, her eyes twinkling with mystery. But one day, the gardeners disappeared, and the garden's magic was lost to time. Elliot listened in awe, his heart filling with a new purpose. That night, he lay awake, clutching the seed tightly in his hand, feeling a sense of responsibility he could barely understand. The next morning, at dawn, he selected a hidden spot in his grandmother's garden, where sunlight filtered gently through the leaves, creating a warm patch of light. There, he dug a small hole, planted the seed, and covered it with rich soil. From that day forward, Elliot dedicated himself to the care of the seed. Every morning, he would bring water from the nearby brook, kneel by the patch of soil, and whisper to it, as if it could hear him. He poured all his hopes and dreams into the seed, sharing stories of his adventures, his thoughts, and his love for the garden he had found. Yet, days turned to weeks, and nothing happened. The patch of soil remained bare, and doubts began to creep into his heart. There were times he felt foolish, ready to give up and let go of the seed's promise. But then he remembered the voice that had spoken to him, and the way the seed had glowed with a hidden light. He resolved to be patient, to believe in the magic that he could not yet see. Then, one crisp morning, as the sun peeked over the horizon, Elliot saw a miracle. A tiny green sprout had broken through the soil, stretching towards the light. His heart leapt with joy, and he let out a shout that echoed through the forest. From that day on, Elliot cared for the sprout with renewed devotion. It grew taller and stronger, its leaves unfurling to reveal colors he had never seen, vibrant blues, purples, and shades of gold that seemed to shimmer in the sunlight. As the plant blossomed, its single flower opened to reveal intricate petal-like tendrils that glistened with dew. The fragrance it emitted was unlike anything Elliot had known, a mix of earth, rain, and something indescribably sweet, filling the air with a peaceful, almost magical aroma. Then, one evening, as the last light of day faded, Elliot noticed something unusual. At the very center of the flower lay another seed, small and golden, gleaming with the same mysterious light as the first. Elliot understood then that this was no ordinary plant, and that his journey with it was only beginning. He took the new seed, cradling it in his hand, and felt a sense of purpose grow within him. This magic wasn't meant for him alone. It was meant to be shared. As time passed, Elliot began planting seeds in forgotten corners of the village, beneath old trees, in empty fields, and along the paths where villagers walked. Each seed took root, blossoming into a unique flower with colors and fragrances that brought life and beauty to the places they touched. Word spread quickly, and soon, villagers came from far and wide to see Elliot's extraordinary flowers. They called him the keeper of the secret garden's magic, a title he held with quiet pride. Years went by, and as Elliot grew into a young man, the village transformed around him. The once barren land became a lush paradise, with flowers blooming in every season, each one unique and brimming with life. Villagers who once walked with heavy hearts found joy in the simple act of visiting the gardens, breathing in the fragrant air, and sharing in the peace Elliot had cultivated. The garden's legacy lived on, one seed at a time, growing in the hands of those who believed in its magic. And though Elliot never knew who had first created the secret garden, he felt in his heart that its magic was alive again, not just in the flowers, but in the people who had learned, through his journey, to nurture life with patience, faith, and love.